Coronado.
Well, not in my backyard. Well, when you get to the backyard, we kind of finish it.
Well, it shouldn't be. It's in a commercial zone right now, and they're trying to smack dab in the middle of residential. My dad
Ladies and
lives,
gentlemen.
like, here's the school. My dad lives
Regular
here.
meeting, University City Council will call to order for February 18th. It is 6:31 p.m. Call for a quorum check.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Councilmember Bulman.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Putt.
Here.
Councilmember Rubal.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Second.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Well, I've got the invocation tonight, and then from there we'll go with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then proceed with the statements. Heavenly Father, as we gather today, we ask for your guidance and wisdom in our discussions. Help us listen attentively to one another with open hearts and minds and make decisions that reflect your will and serve the common good of our citizens. We thank you for bringing us together and for your blessings on our time here. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Be seated. Councilmember Vaughn has got other duties tonight and can't be here, so call for a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second. Call for a vote.
Councilmember Bulman.
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
First on the agenda is citizens to be heard. Before we move into citizens to be heard, majority of the folks are here for the Coronado School District. Is that correct? Anyone that's on the list not for the Coronado School District? Okay, with that being said, we're going to go through with the citizens to be heard. I'd like to bring a couple of things to light, though. As promised at the last meeting, I was going to discuss with Superintendent. I had a personal meeting with Dr. Fields, Superintendent of Judson ISD, and he is in agreement to have a town hall meeting. In fact, he was planning one. I have sent personal invitations to each of the council members, inviting them to the town hall meeting, which is on the 24th at Coronado in the cafeteria at 6:30 p.m. I will be there. I encourage you to go to the regular school board meeting, which is February 20th, Thursday night. And at the location of that one is the Judson School Board Room. The reason why I'm asking you to do this is imperative that you get your word heard by the board members of the Judson ISD and the superintendent staff. They're the ones that are going to be making the decision. We can go in with any type of a comment, negative or positive. It has no sway. We have no sway on the school board. Your vote is the one that put those school board members in there. So with that, we are going to go ahead and we're going to call up and please, each one try to come forward with additional information, not just repeating the same thing if at all possible. We are limiting your speech to 3 minutes. And we're going to hear it. We've only got about 6, 7 people signed up, so we'll hear everyone that wants to speak. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to discuss it with you. Robert Whiting, if you come. State your name and address.
Yes, sir. My name is Robert Whiting. I currently reside at 323 Madrid Drive in Coronado Village. I thank you for this opportunity to be heard. We are here tonight to represent the Save Our Neighborhood Committee, a group of taxpayers and voters primarily from the Coronado Village community. We are concerned that allowing the Judson ISD to repurpose the Coronado Village Elementary School into a disciplinary alternative education program will impact our residents' safety, decrease property values, and prevent attracting new families into the neighborhood. In the February 4th, 2025 City Council meeting, you gave us confirmation we could petition our neighbors without a permit. To date, we have collected over 200 permits. Let me take a moment to add to what you said. We encourage you, Mayor, council members, and everybody in this room to attend not only the town hall scheduled for Monday, but also the Judson ISD board meeting. Because again, it's very important that we get the chance to say our word. If we don't, it's our fault that we didn't take the opportunity to do it. For those, the meeting will begin at the town hall at 6:30 to 7:30. And we humbly ask for everybody's support. Tonight, a few of us would like to provide a sort of like a 30,000-foot view, a big picture, perspective of our concerns with the potential repurposing. Specifically, we will address property values, safety, and particular concerns expressed by our neighbors and community that we found during this petition process. More detailed information is available on our website, ceesuc.weebly.com, C-O-M. Encourage you to go there. We'll have a lot more detail there. Many studies show that the proximity and quality of a school has a significant impact on the desirability of a neighborhood, which in turn affects property value. On December 19, 2024, 6 out of 7 board members from the Judson Independent School District voted to close the Coronado Village Elementary School. The board is now considering repurposing the existing facility. They took away the Coronado Village Elementary School. The elementary school had a rating of 6. The J-Care has a rating of 1, which is we're going to lose a lot of attraction there. And finally, what I'd like to say, many people, we've walked around in the last couple of weeks since they closed it, they put up for sale signs. And finally, I just want to share a personal experience that I had. I went over and watched the students leave J-Care, and I was really concerned because they leave the campus and they disperse. There's nobody managing them. They go to the QT. May I just cut by a couple more seconds, sir?
Proceed.
Thank you very much. They proceed, and they went into the Quick Trip there, the convenience store. When I walked in, the manager was telling a lot of them to leave because they were loitering. And I asked him, I said, why did you tell them to leave? He said, because they continue to come in there day after day after day. They loiter, they block the aisles, and they also have been caught stealing. So at this point, I'll just hand it over to my other team member and let them talk about safety for you. Thank you very much for this
Thank you,
opportunity.
Mr. Whiting. Michelle Vos?
Oh, I was just going to yield my time to Robert. So I think
I'm sorry?
I said I was just going to yield my time to Robert.
No, I don't need it.
But I,
I'm done.
No problem, but I'll thank you, Michelle. James Talley.
My name is James Talley. I currently reside at 130 Valencia, Coronado Village, directly across the street from Coronado Village Elementary School. The purpose tonight is to share safety concerns regarding placing disciplinary alternative education programs, specifically J-Care in my neighborhood. My wife and I have owned this home, Coronado Village, lived there since 2005. We have other family members, including children, grandchildren, and friends residing in the neighborhood. The potential future home of J-Care is immediately surrounded by over 35 homes and 520 plus homes around the neighborhood, housing families with young children and senior citizens. No other DAEP program within the counties or within surrounding San Antonio area has a DAEP in the residential section in that area. Everything is on the outside or mostly placed in a commercial or urban area. So there's nothing that's directly in the center of our neighborhood like it's supposed to, like they want it to be. Furthermore, I'm concerned about the safety of the type of students that are placed in J-Care. The chart being this chart is also on the Judson Independent School District Board website. I'm sorry, but I'm concerned about the safety and examining the type of students in place in J-Care. The chart being held is a report of the violent criminal incidents 22 and 23. It's from the Judson ISD website. It contains a number of disciplinary actions between 22 and 23 of students from Judson ISD, the middle school, placing them in converse area DAAP program. Before I cite a couple of statistics, note this data comes from the Public Education Information Management System, encompassing all the data requested and received by the Texas Education Agency from all the public schools in Texas. Note that you can't obviously see that on the small writing, but if you did come up that site, you'd be able to tell. And since you do not have that, I'd like to cite a couple of reasons for statistics from the report of the code, different codes. For example, code 04, possession, sold, used, or under the influence of marijuana or other controlled substances, over 380 incidents. Code 07, public lewdness or indecent exposure, between 14 and 54 incidents. Code 11, brought a firearm to school or unlawful carrying of a handgun. Code 18, indecency with a child. Code 22, criminal mischief. Code 26, terrorist threat. Code 28, assault against someone other than an employee or volunteer. That was over 400 incidents. And even after the students are placed in J-care, they continue to have serious misbehavior while expelled to place DAEP. Many of these students incidents, also known as Class C felony, Texas Title V Penal Code violation crimes that are punishable by less than 5 years, but no more than 1 year.
Next on your list, and I would like to yield my time so he can finish his
Just a
thought.
few more statements. Anyway, many of these instances, also known as the Class D felonies of Texas Title V Penal Code violations crimes, are punishable by less than 5 years, but no more than 1 year in prison. If this is what you want in your neighborhood of Universal City, we don't, especially directly across the street from where I live. And let me point out those with sexual and assault are offensive. Texas law and the Universal City Ordinance making it unlawful to be in a vehicle or remaining in or around the area designated a child safety zone means public or commercial and semi-private swimming pools. State law mandates that during their term of assignment of J-care, students are prohibited from being upon or within 300 feet of any school district property except that of an alternative school. Did you also know that Judson ISD owns and facilitates a pool located at 506 Coronado Boulevard, well within the 300-foot restriction, next to the Coronado Village Elementary School? This is an explicit violation of state law and Judson ISD rules. I want to read what a former employee of J-care reported to us. As a former employee of Judson Alternative Schools, I would definitely not want those students in my neighborhood. Oh yes, a few may have made a bad decision. Some of them learn from their mistakes, but all the students are there because they have been kicked out of their home campus, and not because they are good students. Some students may be there for truancy, but most are there for fighting, drugs, weapons. They aren't building a jail in your neighborhood, but most of these students have been in jail or awaiting trial for various things: drugs, assault with weapons. Also stated when I was there, many were involved in drive-by shootings, other violent offenses. One even killed his stepdad. So in closed neighborhood, this type of school students is not a good idea. Not judging, it's my personal experience with these students. Not all kids are beyond second chance, but some are on their last chance. Next stop will be Juvenile Justice Academy, jail, or prison, as bad as this may sound. My next, I'd like to bring up another.
You're coming up on 3, sir.
Oh, okay. What's going to be doing with the response of the police department, but I don't have the time for that again.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time and listening to us. And if you're all interested in coming up to this site, feel free to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beth Parker?
Elizabeth Parker, 111 Malaga Circle, Universal City. When I spoke to the council on February the 4th, I saw the Judson proposal that Mr. Wright and Mr. Talley have explained as directly impacting Universal City Vision 35 process. And to just continue some additional information, the J-Care principal said that between 100 and 120 students attend daily at the J-Care program. Were that to be at Coronado Village Elementary, the district is proposing an immediate border with this program for troubled youth to the 30-plus homes that surround the school, including the 10-plus homes with rear or side entry garages, which require backing out within inches of school property. Judson proposes this border also to parents and their students who swim at the Judson Pool, as Mr. Talley said. Coronado Village has no wide boulevards. On two sides, just a sidewalk and a street. And two sides have only 18-foot wide alleys. It's no more appropriate to put this alternative school at Coronado Village than it would be to put it at Franz Elementary in Live Oak, because there's 30 houses also surrounding Franz. And it wouldn't be appropriate to put it at Olympia either, because there are 20-plus houses that surround that school. And as Mr. Talley stated, during the term of the assignment of the students at J-Care, they are prohibited from being upon or within legal limits of any school property except that of the alternative school. So if J-Care students are on alternative property that is now the elementary school, what are the legal limits when the Judson Pool property is right there? I feel like, the Judson School District has tried its best to protect other students from the J-Care students, but because of our subdivision layout, what protects a child who resides across an 18-foot alley or just across the sidewalk in a street from these students? A child's house is not a child safety zone as defined. So I'm asking, can Universal City establish any kind of legal limits that would prevent the J-Care program from relocating to the elementary school? I feel like UC, because of Ordinance 602, has tried to protect students in the zone, in the safety zone. But what about the child that isn't in a safety zone? They are also at risk. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. Rosenstein?
I was yielding my time to her.
And Mr. Brooks, Dan Brooks. Excuse me, Daniel Brooks.
Yeah, it's fine. Good evening. My name is Dan Brooks. I am Assistant Superintendent at Judson ISD. Wanted to talk a little bit about the repurposing of Coronado Village. As some have already stated, we have had meetings concerning the repurposing of the school. Several of our departments within our district did a presentation vying for space at the school. DEP was one of those departments, along with special education. And then we also have some others that we've spoken to that want to be considered for Coronado Village as far as their departments and their programs coming to the school. What we want to do is we want to hear from the community as far as what are your ideas, what are the community's ideas as far as what they would like to see from Coronado Village. What should we repurpose it to? And so we have created a survey that we will put on our website that will be asking those questions. Some, as I said, some have come to the meeting. And so if you agree with what the departments that already presented, there's a question on the survey concerning that. And then there's an open question that asks, what are your ideas? What are your suggestions as to what you think Judson ISD should do with Coronado Village? I do want to state that no decision has been made at this point. As you stated, Mayor Maxwell, the board will vote on that to decide whether or not to make it whatever we're going to make it. Again, I've heard all of the DAP talk, and it seems as if people think the decision has been made already. Is that an option on the table? Yes, that is an option on the table. Has that been recommended yet? No, that has not been recommended yet. What we will do is once we have gathered all information, we being superintendent and the cabinet, once we've gathered all of that information, we'll then get together and decide what recommendation we want to bring to the school board, and then the school board will vote on the recommendation that we bring. So I'm encouraging everyone definitely to come to the meeting on the 20th. On the 24th, which is the town hall meeting. There we'll discuss and hear from the community as far as what are your ideas, what do you want to see as far as Coronado Village, and what would you like it to be. And then from there, like I said, we will gather information and we'll give a recommendation to the board, and from there the board will make a decision. But I do want to say that I understand the concern. Should, the VAP be something that is considered, I do understand the concerns, and we are looking at all aspects of whatever programs come that we decide on. So just want to make sure that everyone is up to date and understand where we are in the process. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. I want to stress again, encourage, I should say, your attendance at the town hall meeting especially. I will not be able to attend the meeting Thursday night on the 20th because I will be out of town with a Texas Municipal League conference. For anyone who is going to be at the town hall meeting on the council, please let Maribel know so that we can make an announcement for possible quorum if necessary. And with that being said, citizens to be heard is closed out. Next comes up is staff reports and discussion items. City manager report.
I have no report, Mr. Mayor. Michael's going to come up and do a brief overview of the fence ordinance since we changed it a year plus ago, just to give the council an idea of where we are on that and how that's working out amongst the residents.
Okay.
Council. So we have put together a presentation to go over basically 1 year of the new ordinance being in effect. And so, next slide, please. So as you recall, back in 2023, in October, City Council updated the fence ordinance. Basically came up with 3 buckets. 3 different categories for permitting. One is the $85 permit and inspection. The second is a $25 permit, which was a reduction. All permits were $85 for fences at that time. That category was reduced to $25 for major fence maintenance. And then there's a third category, no permit fee or inspections required. And that was for minor fences. And so just below that, in the second table, those columns explain what each of those categories means. So then, it's been over a year, but we looked at, next slide please, we looked at the fence data from November 1st of 2023 to October 31st of 2024. And as the table shows, with the new breakdown, we issued 112 $25 fence permits, which again was major fence repair, totaling $2,800. And then $85 fence permits, there were 25 that were issued for a total of $2,125. We did about the same that we normally do. On average, we have 135 permits, fence permits, issued a year. And during that year, we issued 137. Total dollars, revenue brought in was $4,925. Just to put it in perspective, that would mean that if we had not adopted the ordinance and we issued the same number of permits, that would have brought in a revenue stream of $11,645. So we brought in $6,720 less than we did the previous year. Next slide. So from a code compliance standpoint, for that same year, we issued Well, we had 26 total code compliance cases. And as you see, 14 folks did not obtain a permit. So we had to issue them and have them go through the normal process, and they complied. 11 fences were found to be dilapidated, and so they went through the process to correct those infractions. And then there was one fence that was installed as a back-to-back fence. As you see, 0 citations were issued, so that means that working with those residents, we were able to resolve those issues. Next slide. From a variance standpoint, we did go back to 2019. For the year that we were really looking at, it's about the same as those previous years. Both of the variance requests were for height issues, and so they were granted their variance request by the Board of Adjustment. And that is all I have.
Any questions from the council?
No. What do you mean by back-to-back? I don't understand.
I'm sorry, ma'am, we're not, no, that's not audience engagement, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Michael, can you tell me the revenue generated by fence permitting for new builds, developments in the city?
So do you mean new houses?
Developments in the city?
No, I cannot, because we don't issue a separate permit for those. If it's for a new development such as Cibolo Crossing, for a new single-family residence, then that fence that's going to be installed, if a fence is installed, is part of the building permit for that home.
So that's specified within the building permit? That is actually a check-off in the building permit?
Yes.
That you can install a fence without a permit?
No, they do have a permit for the house, which includes the fence.
Okay.
The separate permit is not issued when a new house is constructed. The preponderance of the developers or builders will include the fence as part of their sales package to the residents, and so they will have it on that set of plans. It's a flat fee to construct a house. It's the same fee whether they have a fence or not have a fence on that residential plan, so we don't track new build fences.
So for the apartment complexes that are going up, the fences are included in those plans as well. So there's no separate permit for a fence.
And fences for C5 properties? What regulations are associated with fences for C5?
Well, if it's a new build, it's part of that package, most likely. If it's not, it's an existing commercial building and they want to install a fence, then they have to get a fence permit.
So there is a regulation, however, for C5 properties to have fences when adjoining or associated with the other neighborhoods. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's in the code, if you're well aware of it.
It is in code, yes. Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Yes, sir.
What is a back-to-back fence?
So a back-to-back fence is when two neighbors right on the property line, essentially most people install their fence for residential. 6 inches from their lot line or on the lot line. And then if the neighbors can't get along and they want to each put up a fence, they install them back to back. And so the reason why the city does not allow those is because generally if you have 2 wooden back-to-back fences, it creates a rat room. And so from a maintenance standpoint, you got a bunch of critters living back there and it's hard to get the grass in between. So that's the general idea.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So in the last year, have things gone smoother? Do we have happier residents than we had when they were paying the $85? Because it really took a lot to get that done. The council really worked on it. So was it worth it? Or you feel like?
Well, you put me on the spot.
Yeah, try.
Generally, based on the feedback, I really would say that there hasn't been that much
pushback.
Well, not pushback, there hasn't been that much cheering either.
Oh.
It's just that people are there's still a $25 permit fee. So, yeah.
I've got you. Okay. Thank you.
Well, no other questions or comments? With that, Councilmember Goolsby always has your back. Sorry, couldn't resist that. Couldn't resist that. Next, come back to public announcements. Our announcements, I should say, council and manager announcements. This is the area where anything not on the agenda that may be of community interest is free action. City manager announcements first.
I have no announcements this evening, so thank
Your
you.
announcement, I have a couple of three. The Snowfest was this weekend. We had great success, great weather to go with it. Started out nice and cold, ended up being nice and warm. And I think this ticket sales were around the 5,000 mark, which was really good. Also, just FYI, Meals on Wheels are in the local area. We have quite a few families that are supported by Meals on Wheels, and it's not disadvantaged individuals. It's people primarily that do not have the opportunity to have a 3 square meals a day type situation. I've assisted in volunteering in providing meals or delivering meals a couple of times. Next month, March, is going to be the National Meals on Wheels Month in the San Antonio area, including outlying areas. And they're looking for volunteers that would like to deliver, and I'm inviting the council to volunteer to help deliver during the month. Any citizens that would like to also volunteer would be there also. I'm going to leave this up here. We'll have it posted on our website so that the information is available for everyone. With that being said, I'll turn it over. So I started. Councilmember Goolsby, you have anything?
Oh, yes, thank you. So regarding the Coronado Village, I reached out to a couple of the board members, and it was interesting to see the two different schools of thought on what is happening back and forth, the play back and forth. But I do urge you to go out to the meetings, let them know, regardless of what Mr. Brooks has said. They need to know your feelings. The information y'all put together and presented tonight, fantastic. That stuff is solid. That's what we need to, you need to lead with at that meeting, both meetings. Make sure they hear you, because what they also need to understand, and I said it last council meeting, is that Judson can't really pass a bond without the support of Universal City. So as long as they understand that, I think that's a heavy stick to take with you. So there's my 2 cents. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Ms. Bulman?
Yeah, I appreciate everyone who came out. Like I said, last time you guys came out too, I own a house in Coronado. I lived on Valencia. I lived right next to that school. I was neighbors with actually a lot of you. So I understand. I plan on being at both those meetings. My kind of position on it is from a fiscally, financially sound thing. I think the school should be closed. Like I said, I'd be more than happy to come out and voice that opinion. I'm always for saving the taxpayers' money, and I just feel like that's a real good way to do it. So, like I said, I'm going to try to make both those meetings. I'll try to stand up and speak for you guys if they let me, and that's about it.
Councilmember Putt?
Snowfest was amazing. We went in the afternoon. I couldn't believe it. But I want to thank you all for coming. The presentation was great. I love that there wasn't a lot of repetitiveness that went on. So hopefully I'm going to plan on being there to show support and to listen. But thank you all for coming. This is what we're about.
Pro Tem?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to just reiterate, Snowfest was awesome, and I appreciate all of the efforts that went in from city staff and the volunteers. That event would never happen without everybody throwing in and having a great time, and it was nice to see. It was awesome to come out and walk out and watch everybody be happy. Coronado Village people, I also live in Coronado Village, so it is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness and how much effort you put into the presentation. And as Lori said, I appreciated no repeats. You covered different topics. That's a great way to plan that out. I also think we've encouraged you to go to the meetings, to talk to the school board, to come to the town hall. I would also encourage you to either call or potentially email the cabinet, because if you heard what Dr. Brooks said, is the cabinet's kind of talking about this right now, and they're going to make a recommendation to the school board to vote. And so maybe you can also get in front of them before they make the recommendation, or make sure that they understand that you're talking to them as well. And then I will not be in attendance, so I won't be there on Thursday because I will also be with Mayor Maxwell in Austin at the Texas Policy Summit. So, thank you.
Mr. Rubal.
Reason why I moved to Coronado Village was because the elementary school there, the safety of getting my kids to and from that school 40 years ago. I'm the proud father of 2 Judson valedictorians. So basically, I appreciate the way Judson has provided for us in the past. I think the moves are in directions that are counter to residents, and I hope to support our residents at the Monday meeting. I will be out of state for the Thursday meeting. So I hope to be there, and this pen will write on a piece of paper that you circulate tonight. Oh, one moment. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Okay, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members, I move to change ordinance 581Y20323. This is the fence ordinance. The reason for the change is fence maintenance and fence repair remain issues within our city, not only for the aesthetics of our neighborhoods, but also for the safety, security, and privacy of our residents. Prior councils have made efforts to streamline our fencing ordinance and express concerns regarding the repair or maintenance that alters the fence-to-ground clearance for stormwater runoff. The suggested change to this ordinance preserves the concerns of former council members and simplifies the definition of allowable fence repair for our residents to be in-kind repair and replacement. The latter removes arbitrary rules for the number of pickets and posts, reduces the burden of permit fees for in-kind replacement for residents, and encourages fence repair throughout our city. It simplifies the definition of allowable fence repair. Finally, it removes some of the time burden for inspections for which our city now contracts services from development services. I specifically recommend that the $25 permit fee be deleted, that the concerns for fence construction with regard to water runoff be placed in the permitting column, that the in-kind replacement within this central tier be placed within the permit-free column. I've made specific recommendations for line item changes to this effect. It eliminates the arbitrary designation of 17 pickets and 2 posts. I offer this for the council's consideration for a second to discuss and put on a future agenda to change this ordinance. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So a request has been made to put this on an additional agenda.
I'll second that.
So discussion,
Ooh, we can talk about this?
just yes, no,
For the agenda.
just for agenda.
Can I say why I'm gonna say no?
You may say no.
Arbitrary is a very frustrating word to hear as one of the council members who spent hours, more than a few hours, talking and listening and negotiating back and forth on how we took 6 people plus staff, and staff to come up with a solution that met everybody's needs. It not only took care of what Mr. Casada was talking about how, look, this is a lot, there's a lot of revenue that is lost on that. Well, the city's not in the business of making revenue. We try to break even. But we decided, you know what, let's take one for the citizens, and we'll pull that down. Arbitrary, it's not arbitrary. The 17 pickets is basically the number of pickets on sections of fence. So all of it is not arbitrary. There's not, I don't know any of it that's arbitrary. I think a lot of it was negotiation and compromise. So no, I can't get behind spending another hour on a fence ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, point of order. I believe once a motion is made and it's been seconded, it's open for discussion. And the discussion at this point would be to consider for a future agenda.
Right now, he's giving his opinion with his answer. So we know you're a yes, and we know that Bulman's a yes for adding it. So I'm just taking the votes now. This is not an agenda item, so I'm not making it an agenda item. I'm giving it the opportunity to be a future agenda item based on the council. I'm not making decisions, so now, I'm assuming you're a yes.
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Putt?
I'm a no. I sat in here and listened to every painful word for many painful hours, and I think there's a lot more important things that we can do on this dais. I believe what we saw today, that there really isn't a problem, and we're getting into the weeds really deep.
Pro Tem?
Ditto and no.
Okay. Consensus of the council is a no. Action items. First item up is the audit for FY 2024.
Thank you. This big presentation, this is Selena. She along with Janet.
You have the consent agenda first.
Oh, I apologize.
Oh, my
We
apologies.
do, we have the minutes. Thank you, Maribel.
You just raise your hand.
Yeah, that was me. I made my apologies. I made a check mark and now let me cross-eyed. Item 8, we need a vote on the consent item. The agenda is strictly one item only. If there's any disagreements, thank you.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby,
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman, Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Now, item. This item on the audit will only be required to do a motion to accept the audit and presentation.
And while that presentation is coming up, Mayor, maybe just for the audience, I'll remind them that one of the things the city does annually is we bring in an outside agency to go through our financial records to make sure that we are appropriately placing the funds where they need to be and the expenses and the revenues, and that we have good accounting practices, not only in the books, but how the division of duties happens among staff, so that there's no chance for collusion. That'll leave something. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. I'm Selena Jones. I'm a senior audit manager at ABIP. This is Janet Pittman. She's the partner in charge of the audit. We audited the financial statements of the city for the year ended September 30th, 2024, and issued an annual financial report for that period. There's several things in that financial report. There's an independent auditor's report, which is, thank you. Can't do two things at once. Okay, thank you. There's the independent auditor's report. There's management's discussion and analysis. There's government-wide financial statements, which are converted from the fund financial statements. There's some notes to the financial statements that gives you additional information and clarifies those numbers for you. There's some required supplementary information, such as comparative statements, information related to pension and OPEB, things like that. There's also some other supplementary information and statistics in the back, and then there's a compliance section. A part of our audit also included compliance, some compliance testing. The independent auditor's report is the letter that we issue. It's page 1 through 3. There's a lot of information on that report. The most important thing is our opinion. The audit standards that we followed were GAAP, or generally accepted auditing standards. We also followed government auditing standards, and we also followed uniform guidance. And the purpose of our audit was to form an independent opinion on whether the financial statements are presented in accordance with those standards. And our audit opinion is unmodified, meaning yes, we found that where our opinion is that those financial statements are presented in accordance with those standards. The management's discussion and analysis has some really good information for you on kind of how to read the financial statements and kind of different information that's included there. There's some financial highlights, and again, this is management's analysis and discussion. There's an overview of the financial statements. There's discussion about the government-wide, the converted, which includes long-term assets and liabilities, and there's also some analysis of the city fund financial statements. You'll also see some budgetary highlights, and then some information about your capital assets and debt, those long-term liabilities and assets that show up on your converted government-wide financials. And then there's information on if you want more information about financial statements, you can get that there. I'm going to briefly go over some financial highlights, and at the end, if you have any questions, let us know. First, I'm going to talk about the government-wide financial statements. The assets of the city exceeded the liabilities or its net position by $101.2 million as of September 30th, 2024. $46.7 million of that is government activities. $54.5 million is business type activities such as the water, stormwater, utilities, things like that, and the golf course. Your net position during 2024 increased by $8.5 million from the prior year. $3.4 million of that was in governmental activities, and $5.1 million of that was in business type activities. The governmental increase was primarily due to an increase in some sales tax. You had additional investment earnings. Same thing with business type activities. There were some additional investment earnings, and there was also a transfer from the governmental activities to the business type activities. On pages 18 and 19, there is information on your governmental funds. Your total fund balance was $30.5 million, and again, this is prior to the conversion, so this is just fund level. Your unassigned fund balance was $17.2 million, and $17.1 million, almost all of that is in your general fund. If you do a calculation for operating reserves and you exclude your capital outlay, that equals about 13 months worth of operating expenses. Last year it was 12 months. Your restricted fund balance in the general fund is $216,000, capital projects is $10.3 million, debt service is $765,000, and other special revenue fund is $1.6 million. So you do have some restricted funds in there. Some additional information about your fund financial statements regarding revenue. Revenue was $26 million for the year, which was a $4.6 million increase. It was kind of a variety of reasons. Your ad valorem tax increased by $730,000, and that's more due to an allocation between debt service and the general fund. Your sales tax increased by $174,000. Your investment earnings increased. General funds revenue was $18.6 million. On paper, it looks like a reduction, but the reason for that is we pulled out some special revenue funds out of the general fund in the current year. We're showing them separately now. So it looks like it's a reduction, but it's not truly. There was a $2.2 million of revenue that's now shown as other special revenue funds. Some information about your expenditures. Expenditures were $18.3 million for the year, which was a $997,000 increase, primarily due to three areas. The police expenses increased, fire expenses increased, and your capital outlay increased by about $300,000 roughly for each of those. We also pulled out some non-departmental stuff out of administration, so it just shows separately now. The next set of financial statements are your proprietary funds, which is water, sewer. You'll also notice that we pulled out water impact fees during the current year, so that it's showing separately. So you'll see additional funds under proprietary funds. Your water and sewer fund net position was $40.8 million, which was an increase of $1.3 million. $8.4 million of that is unrestricted. $32.4 million is net investments in capital assets. Your water impact fees, which is one of those new funds, is $2.6 million net position. Sewer impact fees, $542,000 net position, and both of those are restricted for that use. Your stormwater fund net position is $8 million, which was an increase of $722,000. $1.2 million is unrestricted. $6.8 million is investment in capital assets. Your golf fund, $2.5 million net position, which was a slight decrease of $109,000. 2.1 million of that is unrestricted, and your net investment in capital assets is 383,000. Lastly, on page 129 to 132 was our compliance audit, and we issued 2 letters related to that. We did an independent auditor's report based on government auditing standards, and we found that there were no material weaknesses in internal controls to report. We also issued a letter on uniform guidance complied examination on some federal funding that was spent. We also found that there were no findings or questioning cost, and that the city complied with all specific requirements to those guidances. And that's everything in the presentation, but we'll obviously open it for questions if you have anything.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
So Councilman Vaughn can't be here tonight, but he did post on the message board, and I thought it was worth the question to ask since he brought it up. So we had decided at City Council that we had approved $550,000 of the venue tax to go to the general fund, but instead it shows only $349,237 went into it. I was just wondering if we could get an answer on.
Absolutely. We did look at that today. This is a draft, and that was one change that we did make. It's the only change that we made in between the draft that you received and then the draft the final version that you'll get. That transfer was kind of recorded as a transfer back rather than a due to, due from. So we made that correction, and now the transfer shows the full $550,000. And there's a due to, due from that kind of cancels each other out between the special revenue fund and the general fund. So that's resolved. Okay. And you'll see that on the new financial statements when they come out. Yeah, the reason is because you changed to pool cash this year, which is a little bit different from what you've done in the past. So all cash is kind of combined. And at the end of the audit, we saw that there was a negative balance in cash for that fund, and we needed to fix that. And we recorded it as a transfer back. Instead, we needed to record it as a due to, due from. So that money will show as money due from special revenue fund to the general fund, and it was probably paid back the October 1st. It was probably already taken care of. But on that specific day, we just needed to record it differently.
That's it for me.
That's it? Yes.
Yeah, yes, ma'am, thank you. Actually, I spent hours going through this report, more hours than spent on park fences, but in any case, I really applaud your organization for putting the text and the definitions within this report. Even though government accounting is different than business accounting and different than cash accounting in your checkbook, it almost is understandable. and basically, the frame that I like to understand, and here you express, however, the information frame, if you will, is when we look at an audit, my impression, especially from the data that you've provided, is that the standards for auditing allow us to look at this snapshot in time. The snapshot in time is defined by fiscal year, which unfortunately, and the council members will find, overlaps council year type thing. They're not congruous. So basically, there are items and issues in this budget that weren't approved by this council as a group. There are members of the bias that were here. The second thing that is important for us to interpret, I think, and this is where I want your feedback, is that there's relatively limited value in the snapshot in looking at long-term debt payment that's not declared in existing bonds or other tools, financial tools. So therefore, for example, infrastructure debt of the city, where 100 streets need repair, is not in any way in this report. So that when we look at $30 million to play with, some being restricted funds type thing, it's really not there necessarily. This is a snapshot. Right? The other thing I have difficulty with is understanding how pensions are derived, the impact of pensions on the yearly audit, since they're projected forward. So can you give some insight to me and perhaps other council members on that?
So as auditors, we're looking back, we're looking at history and back as the city council, you're looking forward and you're thinking about things forward. But there is some really valuable information in those financial statements for you. The first is the conversion, and you see what those long-term liabilities and assets are. You don't necessarily need to see those when you're looking at your budget to actual and when you're budgeting operating expenses. But it is, you're right, it is valuable, and I'm sure everybody is looking at those requirements. And there's a notes to the financial statement that gives those requirements by year. It gives you a complete breakdown. There's also the statistical section in the back, which gives you patterns, and you can kind of see patterns in the past, and you can see where the debt has increased or decreased. So there is information that will help inform your decisions moving forward. So I hope that answers your question about that. It is two different things, and we're talking about September 30th, 2024, and you all are moving forward. And you've already gone through the budget process. But there is really valuable information if you dig into it. As far as pensions and OPEBs, we get those directly every year from the organization, and they use actuarial assumptions every year. It changes every year. Investments, the way they invest, change every year. And you can look in the back, there's statistical tables for pensions and OPEB that shows you how those liabilities have increased or decreased. And you can see where those transitions have happened. Those are a little bit harder to predict, just because it's such a moving target with those types of things. And we don't really know that until they've completed their actuarial assumptions and made changes. Sometimes they may change how they look at one little thing and it makes the number drop or increase or anything. So, do that. Yes, and there's some timing issues too, because that report is as of December 30th every year. So there's a little bit of a leeway between your year end and their year end. So it is a little bit of a complicated calculation, and we do it carefully every year. That information comes directly from pension and OPEB. So do you have anything else to add? I don't. No.
The last very basic question is essentially the standard used by auditors is actually, the way I understand reading about things online, a little bit worse place to go, essentially is that it is a moving standard. There's improved transparency. I've gone through 20 years of city audits, and there's definitely improved transparency as we move forward.
Yeah.
And do you see trends in future audits in this direction?
Every year, they're sending us updated guidance. Every year we have a new GASB that we have to worry about implement. Yeah. For compensated absences, yeah. So we kind of have to be looking down the pipeline. This is going to be affecting our clients in 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 years. So we want to start talking about those with the cities to make sure that we're on top of those things and we're not kind of chasing them. We're on top of them. We're expecting them. We know what changes what they're gonna affect.
I'm very pleased with this presentation and the report and the data. I'm very pleased with our financial officer.
Yes, I want to definitely commend Christine and the team. They did a great job. The audit was, we had a really good experience. Yeah, everything went really as smoothly as it could, and they do a great job of getting us the information that we need.
Thank you.
And Mrs. Turner is very involved. She looks at all the numbers.
Comments?
Yeah. I know we moved some money to do better. Was this related to what we talked about at the last meeting for transparency purposes?
For the special revenue.
Yeah, so moving some of the money out so it didn't match up exactly?
And that's where Selena and Janet put it into non-major to show us that we really couldn't be using it within the general fund.
That vote made so much more sense once I saw this and saw what you had done. So thank you for kind of teeing that up for us.
And there is a whole schedule in the back that gives you every single fund a breakdown. So you know exactly what's in there, what's happening.
Should you choose to read 124?
Absolutely. I've memorized part of it.
But I have to give kudos to the council as well. You know, we've always offered for people to come in and go over the audit with Christine and I. And, you know, kudos, every council member made an effort this year to ask questions about the audit or to meet with us. or, sought advice elsewhere on the audit, and we greatly appreciate that because it makes our job easier when we know what you're questioning, what you're thinking about. Because sometimes when you ask a question, it forces us to find a non-accounting terms to explain it to everybody, and it takes us back to basics. So kudos to all of you for that. So I really appreciate it. And then also maybe an apology. So, since Christine and I have gotten here, we have done a lot to change the budget process. Some of you have been here with us the whole time. It's been a lot of change in the budget, which then made a lot of changes in the audit. And then we even made more changes in the audit to try to make it a little more transparent. So our desire, our hope, our wish is that at some point we will have absolutely nailed down the perfect budget process for you and have an audit that looks the same 3 years in a row.
You stole my thunder.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just I wanted the audience to know that we are invited to go and sit with them, and they explain it until the thickness works. They explain it in layman's terms. Not all of us can look at the numbers and really understand what we're going, and when we leave, our questions are answered. So yes, kudos to them for being able to explain it to us and make us really understand what's going on.
That being said, call for a motion to accept.
Motion to accept.
Second.
And I think there's been enough discussion. We'll call for the vote.
Who was the second?
Bernie.
Okay.
Mr. Rubal.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman? Aye. Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Super. Ms. Jones, Ms. Bittman, thank you ever so much. And I must tell you, yes, we have improved. I remember when I first got on council as a councilman in 2010, it was the most laborsome concept of trying to do not an audit, but trying to do the budget. And it lasted the entire summer. We get elected in May, and June, July, August, September, every council members, and probably an extra one each month was just for the budget. And yes, we've improved a lot. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item, ordinance 655T 2025, this specific use permit, 436 and 438 East Wright Boulevard, second reading.
Yes, as you know, we had a first read on this last time. There was a lot of discussion. The council asked for some modifications to the SUP. And I think Michael's just going to give you just some general background information on any changes or discussions that we had with the applicants since our last meeting. Thank you, Mr.
Okay. So basically, coming out of the last discussion, there were some additional conditions that you wanted inserted into the ordinance. And so the one that remained was the unity of title agreement, which needs to be approved and recorded. The three additional conditions included a reduction of the accessory dwelling unit size to be no larger than 768 square feet. The third one, removal of the interior fence between the existing home and the proposed ADU. And then the fourth one was the installation of an additional parking space next to the existing driveway. So I did get a call from the applicant after the meeting. He understood all the conditions and the discussion. He did have a question and was wondering whether he really needed to install an additional parking space for the following reason, is that the existing home has a 2-car garage. Well, first let me preface this with our code requires 1 additional parking space for an accessory dwelling unit. So what they have on the property today is a 2-car garage. They have a very long, wide driveway that can accommodate 4 cars on the driveway. So that's a total of 6 cars. If we go by the code, they meet not only the current requirement, but the proposed ADU requirements as well. So he just wanted some clarification, maybe reconsideration of that condition. We do have a photo, Rubal. I put a photo PDF in there. Photos. Hopefully this will show you what. So yeah, there's a good shot of the existing. So you'll notice that there isn't a sidewalk on this side of the street. So it does allow for those cars to basically go out to the curb without blocking the sidewalk that would be on the other side. And so that allows for, again, 2 cars in the garage and 4 cars on the driveway, which is a total of 6 cars. Now, whether or not they use the garage for storage or the cars, I don't know.
Any comments? Yes.
Michael, in your role as mediator of conflict often, where you bring parties together type thing to discuss things, were you able to reach out to the numerous residents who presented this approval?
After the last meeting?
Yes.
No, I did not. And I did not hear from them. Normally, I think I would have heard from someone if they strongly disagreed or wanted a status update, but I didn't hear from the neighbors, the immediate neighbors, or any of the neighbors that came to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Any other questions or anything? Call for a motion to approve?
So let's just make sure we know what we're voting on. Is this ordinance amended to remove the requirement for a second driveway?
So the ordinance in your packets includes the additional space for a driveway as a requirement. If you're going to reconsider that and remove that condition, you need to state the motion. State that in your motion.
Yes.
I will say, I drove by the house a few times and they had moved the trailer from the street into the driveway, so they did follow up on kind of trying to be a better neighbor, which I was appreciative to see. They had also moved the car that was parked in the backyard out of that. That being said, those two things make me feel like the parking could continue to be an issue because they were using the street and the backyard for parking. So it does give me pause to make the amendment, but I also recognize that they made an effort, and I wanted to make sure that you guys all knew that they had at least were trying to follow through and being a better neighbor like we'd asked them to be.
So are you making a motion with?
I did not make a motion there.
Okay. Just asking, making sure.
I was just waiting to see what.
So need either a motion to approve as is or a motion to amend?
Do you want me to? I'm voting no. So either way, so I don't know why everyone's looking at me. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. I'm sticking with my no from last time for all the same reasons and.
Yeah, we got to get a motion before we go to vote.
Yeah. I don't wish it.
I make a motion that we move to approve as written. How's that?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a second? Mayor Pro Tem with a second?
Yes.
Yes.
So the idea is, as it's written, because we are trying to make sure that there is enough parking.
Correct.
I mean, okay.
And I personally am open to considering taking that up. They made some efforts. I feel like they're trying to be good stewards and make that better. They haven't lived there. I feel like that's all there. I also feel like you can park on the street. Like, street parking is allowed by anybody who visits, who lives there. You can have 10 cars parked out in the street. You just have to move them. I mean, there's certain rules around how long you can be parked in one location, correct?
Yes.
You have to move it every, yes. So, I mean, there's rules about that. I was impressed by the fact that they had followed through. Within like 2 days, they had taken care of all the rest of the stuff, and they didn't need to do that right away. They didn't even need to do it yet, but I appreciate the fact that they had. So, yeah, I'm
As it stands right now,
I know.
they have availability of 8 cars to be parked in their driveway and garage. But the motion is stated that there will be the 8 plus 1 additional 6. I'm sorry, 6. I said 8. I'm sorry. The 6 plus an additional for 7.
plus whatever they can park on the street also. So we want to keep the motion as is? Okay, call for the vote.
I guess we'll-
Oh, sorry, call for the discussion.
Is that just a widening of the driveway? We're not installing another curb cut?
Correct.
So
Yeah,
it's
so basically, a flare closer to the garage.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I just have to ask, does Bear feel better about that option?
I'm still frustrated with it. I'm still on the fence. That's why I wish Ashton would really sway one way or the other, but she's been staying mum about it, so I'm just like, "Arr!"
I mean, my discussion is just the same we had before. I don't know, I feel like in my heart, at the end of the day, and this is just my opinion, that these are going to be two separate rentals. I feel like it's going to be a rental house, and the ADU is also going to be a rental. I don't know that I necessarily have wholeheartedly believe that that's not gonna be two rental houses. I don't think that's fair. I wouldn't want it in my neighborhood. We don't have to allow it. It's city council. I understand planning and zoning. They have to allow it because it's based on planning and zoning, but when it comes to city council, I vote with my heart. So I'm just on the fence that I just don't think, like I said, the other ADU, you know, they had people that came and said, yes, this is gonna be for my mother-in-law, I want this here. And then this house was the complete opposite. And they had 6, 7 people say, I don't want this here. And if it was me and it was my neighborhood, I wouldn't want someone to have rentals on top of their house being a rental. I mean, that's just, we've all said at the comprehensive plan, 54% of our town or whatever is rentals. That's an astronomical amount. And now we're just gonna allow even more. I'm not gonna do it, man.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Later on, I'd like to know what you really feel.
Sorry.
No, I was hoping for that. I wanted to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Basically, I must fall on the side of Ashton in that this project, we're faced with defining essentially what a mother-in-law house is. And basically, I think what we're providing is a means for a multi-family unit, okay, which is just significantly different than the neighborhood expects from this. Now, basically, if there were a house for sale in the neighborhood that were reasonable, I'm sure that the family may jump on the chance to have the family close together, and I can appreciate that. But the context is beyond the scope, I think, of the mother-in-law dwelling that we're generally all in favor of. And the family is wonderful, but I just can't do that for the neighborhood.
Understand? Yes.
I do, this is an unusual situation because they are both rentals at this point. I really felt like the family was very heartfelt in their desire to make the changes and improvements to the house and move in. He mentioned that his brother or brother-in-law, I'm not sure which one was going to be the one that was living in the accessory dwelling building. And I also do believe that property owners do have the right to, if they have the space and the ability to make some changes or modifications, I think that is great. I would ideally like it to be families, and I think we're going to be seeing more and more of that as, you know, we kind of grow and things get tightened with the economy and things. I think we are going to see families consolidating down and living together more, and we need to be open to that. But what if then they sell that house and somebody comes in? We have no control over how that's used going forward, and I recognize that. So I think we have to be very careful. To that reason, I think that keeping it to the same as the driveway being built out, that at least is us making some concessions to making sure that there's enough parking for people. I think that's important to do in this case because this one is a little challenging to consider. That's all I have.
Okay, before I call for the vote, I just want to throw this out there for just your consideration and just so you're aware. We are slowly coming into a multinational or multifamily age. My wife and I added a mother-in-law suite to our house a number of years ago. It is adjacent to the room, to the house, to the dwelling, but it was not part of. We actually built it onto. It has a separate entrance if desired. And if anything were to happen to my mother-in-law, heaven forbid, we could rent that room out. That would be our free will to do, as it was. So I just want to know that there are certain things that you cannot control, and just be aware that we're changing as we evolve around, especially as we have a lot of our family members aging and moving back in with the younger children and vice versa. So there's certain things that we can't change, but there's some things also that is illegal. And with that, let's call for the vote.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Bulman?
No.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
With regrets, no.
The motion carried.
Carry forward. Okay, next item is item B, Hillview pay number 5.
Yes, Mayor, as you know, with the community development block grants, in order to get reimbursement, we have to have approval on each pay application by City Council. So this one is for the Hillview project. It's in the amount of $207,950.43. And we are requesting council approve it so we get a reimbursement from the county.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Bulman?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Rubal?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Move forward. Ladies and gentlemen, item 10 is an executive session. City Council, Universal City will meet to, under Texas Government Code 551071, consultation with attorneys in relationship to case number 2024, CV06511, Camino, Nuevo, LLC, Texas Liability Company, and there's a bunch of stuff in there too. We're going to receive information here that we may or may not take action on. And at 8:46, we're going to send to 7:46, my apologies, 7:46.
Me. Goodness gracious.
7:46.
No wonder I'm so tired. I know.
Sure looks like it's on. We do understand if you don't stick around, but we will be back.
We're not bringing your bag.
He's doing really good. He's got 4 more weeks of not being able to lift 10 pounds or more.
And considering his age and everything, that's going to be hard.
Yeah, but everything else he got cleared, so he's very happy. He's doing
No, we
good.
emptied the room.
I mean, it's fantastic.
His scars were really good, and then they never improved. Like, they were really gross for like the longest time now. They're finally clean, and then like, I was more than yeah, it's very happy. It's too hard. Prove it, or you don't even deny it, like all this time.
It is 8:11, reconvening the meeting.
It was stressful, I knew.
And we're out of executive council session, and with that being said, there's no action being taken by the council. And with that being said, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, everyone, bundle up.
Oh, yeah.
Stay warm.
Yes, stay warm and just don't do good in cold weather.